Hello, good afternoon. Coming in a few minutes early for us to get started with our noon review of chapters 13 and 14 in Adventist Home. I pray that you guys are doing well. Welcome to those who are joining. I apologize, I forgot to set up my light today. Next time. I think it does look a little better when I set the light up, so I'll work on that. How are you guys doing today? Say hello if you're able to. And we'll get started in just a moment. Hello, how are you? You're in France, right? Hi, Sister Saida, how are you? I keep saying I'm going to call you, and every time I think about it, it's like, early in the morning my time, and so I don't want to call you too early. Hi, Jonathan, how are you? All right, well, it is noon, so let's pray, and we'll get started. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this wonderful day that you have given us, this opportunity to come together and review that which we have studied throughout the week. Lord, we ask that you would cement these principles in our hearts, in our minds, that we would learn and put into practice those things that you are teaching us, that you would empower us, that we can work through your love, and never because we feel it a necessity, but because your love has empowered us. We ask that you would help us to prepare for the Holy Sabbath day, and that when it comes, or if it has come to some, that we will find in it the rest and the blessings that you have promised. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, well, oh no, it's no problem at all, Sister Side. I know people forget that there's no Friday class for a few weeks when we first start. So just a reminder, there is no class on Friday. This is our Friday class. This is our review of the week. Good day from Ontario, Canada. Is it cold up there? I'm sure it is. It's a little cold. Well, what we Floridians call cold, right? Hi, Veronica. Welcome. So it's no problem. On some Friday mornings, the prayer line leaders meet and we just kind of discuss whatever is going on. So that reminds me that this month on the 28th, which is the fourth Friday of the month, we will have our all-night prayer from 9 p.m. to 12 a.m. Eastern time. And so I think that's the only thing that we have going on. So for those of you who might be joining us today, who don't know about our class, we meet in the mornings at 7 a.m. Eastern time from 7 to 7:30, and we're studying Adventist Home. And today we're reviewing chapters 13 and 14. And our calls are recorded, so you're more than welcome to view those recordings, listen to them if you go to trueviewedu.org, trueviewedu.org. That will take you to our Teachable page that will give you the option for the Adventist Home class as one of the classes. We have a few classes. The 10 principles that we completed, I guess 4 years ago now, was our first class, and then we had another class. So it's the second class that we recorded that's uploaded. And then last year we did child guidance, and then now this year we're reading Adventist Home. So feel free to join us, feel free to go back and catch up. And then we meet here every Friday at noon. Welcome, Sister Tanya. Very, very cold in Canada, I'm sure. Us Floridians think anything around the 50s is cold. So, all right. So we're going to review chapter 13 and 14, beginning with 13, which is domestic training. Now, I really struggled with what to pick to review out of this chapter because it's really all very good. So if you have not read this chapter, you want to read it in its entirety, because it's hard to choose. But I'm going to start with, I'm looking for my glasses. Let me grab my glasses here so I can see. All right. Preparation for marriage is an essential part of education. And I'm going to read these first two paragraphs because I think they kind of set the tone. Upon no account should the marriage relation be entered upon until the parties have a knowledge of the duties of a practical domestic life. The wife should have culture of mind and manners that she may be qualified to rightly train the children that may be given her. So, if you are considering marriage, and I like this paragraph because it's not only for those who are considering marriage, it's for those who are married, who have children. I get calls all the time. I have children that are 2, 3, 4, 5. They're not really school age. What should I be doing with them? You should be training them to run the household. So obviously they're not going to be able to run the household when they're 5, but they will be learning what goes on in the running of a household, right? So they're going to be watching you wash dishes, cook dinner, make beds, do laundry. These are the little 5-year-olds can put together the socks that come out of the laundry, right? Maybe you fold and they can help put it away. They can fold washcloths from the towels. To give them jobs that they can do alongside you so that they will be learning from wee little that this is a part of life. And one thing that we do, especially in America, and I think it's a lot of countries, it's not just America, but especially in America, you've made it in America when you don't have to make your own bed, when you don't have to cook your own meal, when you don't have to do these things, you pay someone else to do these things. And this is a sign of, what's the word I'm looking for, of wealth, of accomplishment, right? And so we have been brainwashed to think that when we are successful, that we won't do these things, and that we don't have to status, right? Janae says status. And so when we have gained status, then, oh, do you know how to cook? Oh, no, I have people that do that for me, right? No, that is not, no. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't have people that do that for you, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't know how to do it, right? You should know how to make your beds. And one thing that I admired about President Obama and his wife is that their daughters who lived in the White House still made their beds. And they did it to keep them, like, you're a real person. Yes, you are the president's daughter, but like, you are not above the people that work in this house, that come in here and clean things for you, that serve you. You are not above them. You are not better than them. And so it helps to give a I've even heard, like, Hollywood movie stars say that what helps to keep them grounded, if that's even possible. I mean, I'm not here to debate Hollywood, but is they make their bed. And it helps them feel normal, like a real person. And so they have somebody else clean the rest of the house, but they kind of make their bed to keep them connected to everyday life. So anyway, the whole point is that we need our children to know, and we need to know we are not above menial tasks. And not only are we not above menial tasks, we need menial tasks. God designed work to keep us sane. In his infinite wisdom, he put Adam to work. Every human being that is capable of working needs to work. Doesn't mean you need to go get a 9 to 5 job, but it means you need to clean up. When you go to the restaurant, don't leave a mess on the table. You can stack your plates in order. You can wipe up a little bit. Yeah, somebody's coming to clean your table. Teach your children to let people know that the people at this table care about how this table was left. They should, when a busboy, the waitress, whoever comes to the table, they should know the people at this table that just ate here have dignity. They should know that by the way that it was left. Karen says, Steps to Christ says he gave us work for the sake of men. Amen. He gave us work to keep us in our right mind. Work has so many benefits that we'll talk about in this lesson. In the second paragraph, it says, many ladies accounted well educated, having graduated with honors at some institution of learning, are shamefully ignorant of the practical duties of life. They are destitute of the qualifications necessary for the proper regulation of the family, and hence essential to its happiness. They may talk of women's elevated spirit and of her rights, yet they themselves fall far below the true spirit of a woman. So now we are getting into the issue of women's rights. I can do anything that a man can do. I can do it better. Don't tell me what a woman's place is. Should I be baking cookies all day? That is not the job of a woman, to be baking cookies all day. I don't know that anyone ever suggested that. But what is the point of this paragraph? You can have 5 degrees, right? You can have a bachelor's, you can have a couple masters, you can have PhD, you can have some certifications, and that is beautiful. But if you don't know how to cook some rice, if you don't know how to make a meal for your family, like, all those degrees are not going to help your family eat. If you don't know how to keep the home well maintained and well organized, then these degrees are not going to teach your family how to live. And so we need balance, right? It doesn't mean that you can't be educated, but what it does mean, and she talks about this more in depth, is that we need a balance, right? So doesn't mean you can't learn algebra, but algebra is not more important than knowing how to clean a kitchen, how to cook a meal, how to take care of yourself. Internet says, dry the water off the sink counter after washing hands in public restroom. That is so true. That is so true. And then not making a mess, right? So, we won't talk about the public restrooms because I think a lot of people need some training in how to use the public restroom. Tanya says, such even belittle the honorable role of the woman. Right. And so one of the purposes of this ministry is we want to bring back the dignity of being a woman, of being a homemaker, if you want to call it that. And like I said, that doesn't mean that you don't work. Maybe you work from home. Maybe you bring children into your home. Maybe you have a catering business. I know Laurie makes soap. Like whatever you do doesn't mean that you don't have a business, but it means that you are the nurturer. We talked about this. I think it was last week on the call that the woman, God has called the woman to be the nurturer. Doesn't mean men can't nurture, but that's not really their role. Their role is to provide stability, steadfastness. You know, the dad is supposed to be the one that the children go to, and when dad comes in, it's like, you're gonna get it when daddy comes home, right? Dad has to lay down the law. He keeps things smooth. He keeps things right. He's like the principal, right? The mom is the teacher. She's in the classroom. She knows the children. But the principal kind of runs, the outside things. He kind of takes care of the government of the school. And then the teacher, she's the one that's down in the trenches with the students. So that's kind of the mom. She's down in the trenches with the children. She knows just from a look in the eye, you are up to something. Come here, let me see you. What are you doing? Child hasn't said anything. You haven't said anything. Just that look that something is not right. Come here. Let me smell you. Let me touch you. Let me see what you have been doing, right? This was the first sin of Eve, wanting to be above what God had made her to be. Absolutely. And so we want to know, what has God called us to be, and then be excited about that, right? Because we have learned to do these things well, and we want to teach our children. All right, on page 88, the idea that ignorance of useful employment, essential characteristic of the true gentleman or lady, is contrary to the design of God in the creation of man. Idleness is a sin, and ignorance of common duties is the result of folly, which after life will give ample occasion to bitterly regret. So, this whole notion that you don't know how to make a bed, you don't know how to cook a meal, this is foolishness. This should not be spoken of by the people of God. This is not God's intent. This is not attainment, to say that you are just doing so well in life that you don't have time for these menial tasks. This is a part of life. We want to incorporate these things into our everyday learning. And we're going to learn to regret when we haven't taken time to learn these things. Frankie says shameful. Indeed, indeed. All right. Now we go down in domestic training should be in the college curriculum. They, the students, need to become familiar with the daily duties of life. They should be taught to do their domestic duties thoroughly and well, with as little noise and confusion as possible. Become familiar with the daily duties of life. They should be taught to do their domestic duties thoroughly and well, with as little noise and confusion as possible. The kitchen and all other parts of the building should be kept sweet and clean. A part of school should be learning how to take care of these things. And we talked on the line about how this used to be taught in school. I know when I was I think it was the seventh grade, it was seventh or eighth grade, I took home ec, and we cooked, and we had sewing projects. We had a couple of sewing projects. And I remember there was this guy in my class. He lived in my neighborhood, and we made some, they called them knickers back then. They were like short pants. I guess you would call them capris today. And we made some of those. And his looked nicer. Like, he was the only guy in our class, and his looked the best. And we were so jealous. We were like, hey, don't be making us look bad. Like, you've done this before. And he's like, no, I just learned it. And he had picked out this nice fabric. They looked so nice. But we learned how to sew, and we wore our knickers to school. And we were excited because we had made them in class. And so, there used to be a time that these things were taught, or I know sometimes the Pathfinder honors include sewing or laundry or things like this. And I highly recommend using some of the Pathfinder honors in your home school. Your children don't have to be in Pathfinders, but those honors, Some of them are quite amazing, and you can use them for guidance on things that you can teach your children at home. Like it'll give you kind of a checklist of what you need to do to say that you have mastered this honor. And they are very good for home training. And then you have something specific that, if you want to use something for your records for the state or whatever, then you can print those out. You can put them in this honor. So there's some very nice ones that apply to. There's a baking one, there's a cooking one. I know there's like a knitting one. So there's a sewing one. There's lots of different honors that would be fun to do and practical because they're teaching concepts that we want our children to learn and that we can learn. All right, a knowledge of homemaking is indispensable. So here she talks specifically about if you need to get rid of something out of your life, so learning French, learning algebra, even learning the piano. She says that learning how to take care of home is more important than being able to play the piano, which you could use as a side business, right? Because if you know how to play the piano well, you can get a piano, put it in your home, you can open up a studio, and you can bring them how to sing. Maybe you how to sing. That's what I was going to say that next. You could teach them how to play the piano. If you sing, you could teach voice lessons. How do we get them without being in the club? So you mean the actual honors themselves? The patches, is that what you mean? So you can call, I want to say they made a rule where you have to be a director to kick them out because I think people were doing some things with them that they shouldn't have, but don't quote me on that. So you can either order them from the website where they sell them, or you can contact a Pathfinder director and just let them know, hey, my children and I are working on some honors, and when you place your order, please let me know because I would like to place some orders. I know when my daughter was in Eager Beavers, we did the whole book for the summer. That was our summer curriculum, and I ordered the patches just as a parent. But I want to say that I remember that I don't know that you can order them because there was some shady stuff going on. But anyway, what I would do is if I wasn't able to order them, I would just contact a Pathfinder director and have an investiture every year. So you just find out when they're having investiture, contact them and ask them to order. But call the people first. I can look up. I'm trying to remember the name of there's a company that sells them. So wherever you buy, I'll ask, I can ask our director if you're interested, but if you do it locally, then you won't have to pay shipping. But if you're interested, just contact me because I can ask our director at our church and get her to order them. Advent Source, thank you. I don't know why they would not come to my mind. Thank you, Advent Source. Contact Advent Source, let them know that you would like to order some honors, but if you know the Pathfinder director, I would just ask them to order them. I think we did that too. Sometimes we learn. You know how that goes, and if you need any help with that, and I'll be happy to help. All right, so she goes on and she's talking about being able to provide food that is palatable, which is especially important when you have become whole food plant-based, right? So you go from eating whatever you're eating. I grew up missionary Baptist and we ate whatever, okay? And my grandparents ate stuff that I would never dream of eating because it just sounded nasty. But, so when I came into this message and I actually gave up pork and beef when I was in college for just kind of other health reasons. But then when I came into the church, I, met people that were vegetarian, started learning about the health message. And I just really struggled with learning how to eat without meat. And I would ask people, and they were absolutely no help. And they would say, oh, just keep it simple. I don't really know what that means because I'll just eat whatever you normally eat with no meat. So you want me to eat a turkey sandwich with no turkey? That does not sound delicious. So would you want me to eat some lettuce and cheese with mayonnaise? That doesn't sound appetizing. So I didn't know what that meant. Um, so it's very important for us to know how to eat healthy and how to teach people to eat healthy in a way that's not, cumbersome. And then I would, make all these elaborate meals, and then I just hated cooking all together because it would take an hour and a half to cook dinner. And I was like, there must be a more excellent way, right? So I had to learn how to prepare simple meals. And nowadays you have YouTube and people show you how to meal prep, and maybe you really don't even have to cook once or twice. Well, maybe not once, because I like my food not to be too many days old. So maybe you cook 2 or 3 times a week. And I mean, it just life has really changed in a way that's much easier to do these things. And so I've learned quite a bit just from watching YouTube videos. Oh, is that how you do that? You don't have to cook every day. You make the salad in the jar, then you just pour it out into a bowl. You don't have to make it every day. So anyway, we need to learn these things and share tips with us available these days. There's absolutely no excuse on why you cannot eat healthy and it tastes good. It doesn't have to taste like cardboard. And I tease this lady at my church because she can make anything taste good. And I'm like, I think this lady could take some cardboard and put some seasons on it and make it taste pretty good. I mean, like, everything she cooks is amazing. And I'm like, but what did you put in here? And then I tried that same thing and it wasn't that delicious. And I'm just like, she's like, these are the meatballs from Trader Joe's. I had the meatballs from Trader Joe's and they were that good. She's like, no, you have to season them up. I'm like, oh, okay. So you have to know how to make things taste delicious so that people want to try this lifestyle, so that your family is healthy, they're whole, because we know how to take care of them. And Tanya says cooking God's way is actually quite simple. We need to get rid of all fluff. That's exactly right. You keep it simple. You shop the vegetable aisle, produce section rather. So the majority of what we should be eating should be whole foods that are plant-based. Broccoli, Brussels sprouts, eggplant, sweet potatoes. And you just stand in the produce section and put a whole meal together. And so we have to learn how to eat that and make it taste good, right? All right, let's move on. Now, I wanted to bring up this, where is it? When she talked about hygiene, it says, in the study of hygiene, the earnest teacher will improve every opportunity to show the necessity of perfect cleanliness, both in personal habits and in one's surroundings. But that's not what I was looking for. She actually mentioned hygiene. Oh, here it is. Here it is. I'm at the bottom of page 89. The principles of hygiene as applied to diet, exercise, the care of children, the treatment of the sick, and many like matters should be given much more attention than they ordinarily receive. So, this is so interesting because usually when I think of the word hygiene, I think about taking a bath, putting on some deodorant, brushing teeth, not wearing dirty clothes. But she is talking about applying the principles of hygiene to diet, to exercise, to the care of children, to the treatment of sick. So what does this mean? That this scope is so broad, and we need to broaden our understanding and connect these things in the way that God intended them to be connected. Tanya says, do not confuse vegan and vegetarian. They are not synonymous. That's a very good point. So I try not to tell people that I'm vegan, because vegans are not usually vegan because of health reasons. One, right? Vegans are usually, at least this is what the word has kind of morphed into meaning. So there was one point where vegan just meant you did not eat animal products, but it doesn't mean that today. Today, the word vegan means you are an animal rights activist, you don't eat honey, you don't wear leather, you don't do anything that supports the cruelty of animals. And so you don't eat anything that may have been processed to harm animals. So you wouldn't wear makeup that uses ingredients that come from a rendering plant because that's from dead animals. Um, and so it has a completely different connotation. Yeah, and so Tanya says she stopped calling herself vegan. So I normally go by plant-based. Um, is usually the term that I use, and people might say, because I might say, oh, we just started the Dave Ramsey, what do you call it, financial peace class last Sunday, and at this church, it's not too far from my house, and they were serving some turkey roll-ups and some cookies. And so the lady comes over and she says, "You don't want any?" And I said, "No, thank you. We don't eat meat." She said, "Oh, are you vegan?" And I said, "We're plant-based." Um, and so, that's usually kind of how I answer it. And sometimes people don't respond or, and say, "Well, what does that mean?" I think they kind of heard the term. So some of them don't really know what the difference is. But I did have a girl in front of me who said, "I want to be vegan." And so I will be following up with her, just kind of get her why and see if I can offer her some assistance in changing her diet and her lifestyle. But anyway, we we do certainly want to be careful of the terms that we use and the stigmas that go with them. And I'm actually a member of this vegetarian, I don't know what it's called, something. I think it's called Vegan something on Facebook. And they have the stupidest disagreements because they're like, "Oh, if you do that, you're not a vegan." And yeah, so anyway, I only got on there to get menu ideas, but I think I need to remove my membership because it hasn't been very productive. But anyway, the point is we want to be, in everything that we do, we want to represent God. And we know that the health message is the right arm of the gospel. And so when we eat in a way that glorifies God, we will have an in with people who would never even mention the name God, right? Because they'll be interested in our lifestyle and why are you, 60 years old and you're not on any medication. People want to know that. People want to know how you do that. And so you'll have opportunities that other people who claim to know God will not have because you are reaping benefits and blessings that come from living life in a way that God has ordained. Tanya says it is not distinguished from lactose ovo vegetarian anymore, which is what most Adventists are now. That's true. That's true. All right, so let's finish this so we can go on to chapter 14. So a young lady counseled to acquire habits of industry and value of practical education for girls. So we can kind of lump these together because they kind of go together. Women should be trained to some business whereby she can gain a livelihood if necessary. And I think this is so true. And if I may even go further, that I believe if Ellen White were alive today, that she would encourage having a business that you can run from home. I mean, the technology, think about it. When I was, I don't know, maybe even in college, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, there's no way we could have imagined the world that we would live in right now, that you could video from your phone, that you could have students all over the world that you can teach. We have people that teach the students in China, right? All because you have a computer and a camera. And so we're able to do things today that were just not possible in her time from the comfort of home. And so I encourage um, every mother, every woman, if possible, to have a business that you do with your children. You know, I had a friend who, for the Pathfinders and Adventurers, she charged people to sew their patches on. She charged $1 a patch. And so when it was time for investiture, you know, all the whole club would drop off their sashes and she would sew on their patches for them. And, you know, if they had 5 patches, it was $5. And so that really added up over time. Renee says VIP Kid is a serious hot side hustle, right? And VIP Kid is just one of them. There's a few that do the same thing. So you wake up early in the morning. My friend is a teacher and makes an extra $900 a month. That is crazy. And you never even have to leave your home, and you're making nearly $1,000 a month. Just, I think you have to have a degree. You don't have to be a certified teacher, but you do have to have a degree to work for them. But you know, there are many companies like that you can work for from the comfort of your home. And I highly recommend taking the Dave Ramsey Financial Peace. And actually, a friend of mine recommended a financial series that I bought, but I haven't watched it yet because it's DVDs, and we don't have our DVD player hooked up because we never use DVDs. And my computer doesn't have a DVD player. So, you know, the times we live in, right? The new computers don't come with DVD players. And so I keep saying I was going to take them and burn them so I could put the files on my computer at any rate. I'll get the name for you because I think it's an Adventist guy who teaches this series on finances. And the girl who told me about it, she said that she thinks it's actually better than Dave Ramsey. And so I'll get back to you on that. In fact, let me make a note right now. How do you find the time so engrossed in this homeschooling? So Tanya, for the VIP kids and the other ones, because you're teaching children in China, it's usually very early in the morning. Like I have a friend who does it, and she's usually up at like 6 a.m., 5 a.m., 7 a.m. She does it early in the morning is when she does her teaching. So I don't know when the other people do it, but I know I think I know at least 3 people personally that do it, and they all do it very early in the morning. And one of them, she actually goes to my church, and she has small children, like 5 and almost 2. And she's been doing it for at least a couple of years because I saw her in Dollar Tree when she was just about to interview. She was buying some stuff to put on the wall behind her so it would look like a classroom. And that had to be at least 3 years ago, maybe 4. So anyway, if you guys are interested in it, let me know and I can get you some more information. All right, so I said all that to say these things, when we're trained in how to do things at home and we get a skill, these are things that we can use to make money. You can iron people's clothes, you can cook for them. I met a girl when I lived in Texas, she's Puerto Rican. And she would make Puerto Rican rice and all these other dishes. And she had clients. Some of them were from her church. I think she worked at a hospital. Some of them were from the hospital. And she would cook for them each week. And she had like a weekly menu. And you could only buy what was on the menu for that week. And she would take orders at the beginning of the week. And some people she would cook for them for Sabbath because they worked and they didn't really have time. And so to generate income and practically never really even leave your home. All right, so let's go on to, at the very end, it talks about the father being thrifty and industrious. I have this friend, I won't mention her name because some of you may know her. And when she first met her husband, he thought she was she spent too much money. And so he sold her car. And she was telling me this story. She's like, he sold my car. And she was still, this is probably like 20 years ago. He's like, you don't need to be spending all this money in car payments. We have plans, we have dreams. I'm going to get you a cash car. I'm going to get you a car that looks nice, but we're not going to be spending $600 a month on the car payment because that is ridiculous. And so he sold her car. And so the husband in general has the job of taking care of the finances, deciding, you know, taking care of the cars and making sure that everything is done, you know, well. And I thank God that in my family, I have had wonderful men who set an example of taking care of the household, not thinking twice about it. I'll tell you guys this story quickly. So I'm the family historian, and I would talk to the older people in my family about things that happened. So I learned this story from my great aunt, my mother's aunt, about this guy that she dated. And long story short, he wound up being a little crazy. And so my great grandfather stayed home from work to protect his family from this crazy man, because he, as the man, he needed to protect his family. And like, no, most of the people in the family didn't even know the story. I was just like, you know, it's like I'm watching a movie or something, listening to this story. But the point is that he took that on. He kept his family safe, because that was a part of his job, and he took it very seriously. And so these are the kinds of things that we want to train. What is the name of that ministry? Some of you will know what I'm talking about. They had a whole bunch of children, and the lady talked about scheduling. I can see the book in my mind right now. It's all these colors. Was it the Titus 2? I don't know. So this ministry where this guy, he taught his boys to save money. And like each one of them, by the time they were 18 to 20 years old, they had saved up enough money to buy a house. And each one of his children owned a home, and then they would get tenants to live in this home. And so from this concept, some of the people in my homeschool group from Texas did the same thing. So I remember this girl in the homeschool group, she's like 16 years old, and she's got like 3 houses. And so I'm talking to her, and she's like, yeah, I have to go check on my tenants. I'm sorry, come again, you have to do what? Oh, my tenants. Like real tenants that she had in her home, and something had happened to one of the windows, and she needed to go replace it. So her dad would go and help her. So she would try to fix it, and if she wasn't able to, she would bring her dad. But like when she was 16, she already owned 3 houses. So these are the kinds of things that we want to learn how to do. So then that way, not only are we not in debt, but we're generating income. And so, you know, if push came to shove, if she needed to, she could live in one of those houses, right? Or she could flip it and sell it. And so these are things we want to think about when our children are young, so that when they get older, they will already have something to get them on the way. All right, so we're going to go on over to chapter 14. We have a little less than 20 minutes. And the chapter is not long, so I think we'll be good. This chapter was it was short, but it was power-packed. True conversion, a requisite. And what I love most about this chapter is that while it's talking about pre-marriage, what needs to happen before we get married, it is also very much relevant to if we're already married and having it once you're already in it. So yes, one thing you should know for sure: do not get married before you're converted. And with that, make sure you know what true conversion is, because when I realized I was not converted, I don't think I ever really knew that I wasn't converted, right? I'm not really sure that I even knew what it meant to be converted. I thought converted meant You went to church on the Sabbath and you returned your tithe, you followed the health message. It was all external things that I'm doing these things, I don't do these things anymore, I don't eat pork, I don't righteousness, right? But conversion has a lot to do with our thought process. How do I start to take these things seriously? And we want to teach our children these things, that you definitely don't want to be hooking up with someone else when you have not learned to completely give your heart to God. Because if you can't do it while you're alone, how are you going to do it when you're living with someone else, right? Not that it can't be done, but certainly it will be much harder because now you have someone else to contend with. And so this in the second paragraph, it says, religion is love, and a Christian home courtesy. So this is the definition we all want to write down. Let's stick it on the refrigerator. Religion is should be doing them because they are fueled and propelled by love. The underlying principle needs to be love. I eat this way. I want to be healthy because I love God, because He's given me an amazing body. And just like I would take care of my nice BMW that I spent 60 grand for, I want to take care of my body, which is worth much more than 60 grand and is much more complex than a BMW, right? So we want to put our priorities in order. My body is a much higher level of sophistication than a Bentley, than a Tesla, right? We want to take care of our bodies like they are high class machinery, and we want to do it because we love God. Only where Christ reigns can there be deep, true, unselfish love. You want to love unselfishly, you want to be loved unselfishly, get to know Jesus Christ and make sure that your knowledge of Him is not a superficial knowledge, but it is a knowledge that brings forth fruit. So I tell my math students, I ask them a question and they say, "Oh, I know it." And I say, "Okay, well, tell me about it." "Oh, you know that thing, and then you do this after you do that." Like they don't know what they're talking about, right? And so, yes, it makes sense when I do it. Yes, you follow the steps that I took, but then when you try to do it, principles to Christianity. Yes, I know a Christian when I see one, but am I able to be silent when someone crosses me? Or do I just admire the people who are able to do that, right? So I have admiration for them. But do I know how to connect? Most irritated. Can I get to the point where I'm not even irritated because I was already kept under the power of the Holy Spirit? And so I didn't even get irritated because I gave full control. This is what we want to be striving. This ministry that we want to not just have this head knowledge of God, but that we want it to be that can only be explained by the principles of heaven. Why are you calm? And she just said this to you. Because we wrestle not against flesh and blood. And you guys are having streaming problems? Uh-oh, what's happening? I'm not really sure what's going on. We are too. I tried logging out. Is it breaking up? Oh, in and out. Okay, I'm so sorry. I hope you guys are following what I'm saying. All right, let's take a moment and pray. Lord, we're asking that you would be with our technical difficulties. We know that these lessons are so important, and so we don't want to miss any bit of it. And so we just ask that you would work with the technology, that you would touch it, that you would send your holy angels to guide it and to fix any issues so that I would come across clear. Lord, that your message. All right, so we talked about, it says, Angels of God will be guests in the home, and their holy vigils will hallow the marriage chamber. Debasing sensuality will be banished.